Look at me.
Sure.
Look at me.
Sure.
I am the Snow White now.
Let's address the elephant in the room. I'm the hottest person in the world.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, I don't need your business.
And everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Sometimes confidence is inspiring. Other times, it's so wildly misplaced that it makes people do a double take. Rachel Zegler landed in hot water when she compared herself to fine art hanging in the Louvre. Yes, the actual Louvre. In an on-camera interview, she gushed about how people would wait in line to see her at every premiere, despite all her flaws and cracks. She even compared herself to Marlon Brando, suggesting her acting was so captivating that she was essentially a living, breathing masterpiece. The internet didn't buy it for a second. What makes this moment so eye-roll worthy is how unearned it all felt. Rachel was still relatively new to Hollywood, having only appeared in a couple of major films. But instead of embracing humility or letting her work speak for itself, she leaned hard into self-worship. Viewers weren't just confused, they were baffled. Who talks like this after just a few roles? It came off less like confidence and more like someone who believed her own press a little too much. The whole clip had the energy of someone trying to will their stardom into existence, even if the public wasn't entirely on board. And as we'd soon find out, they weren't. Here's where things take a sharp turn from cringy to downright tragic. Rachel, along with a few friends, decided to film themselves going to see Snow White in theaters. You'd think this would be a triumphant moment, right? The star of the movie walking into a theater to a crowd of adoring fans, maybe even getting recognized by the staff. Instead, it was silent. Empty. Awkward. Painfully awkward. The video shows Rachel holding up popcorn buckets with her face on them, which is already a strange move. But the real kicker is when she walks up to the ticket booth and the guy doesn't even know who she is. Not even a flicker of recognition. And when they enter the theater, not a single other person is there. It's just Rachel, her crew, and row upon row of empty seats. It felt less like a celebration and more like an unintentional documentary on how fame doesn't always translate to actual public support. What's baffling is that she posted this clip herself. She didn't have to. No one forced her to share this sad, ghost town experience. But in a twist of irony, the video ended up reinforcing the exact opposite of what she had been preaching. No one was lining up. No one was cheering. The popcorn with her face on it felt more like satire than celebration. It was a bold reminder that fame can be loud on social media, but eerily quiet in the real world. Now, if the empty theater wasn't enough proof that Snow White wasn't clicking with audiences, the box office numbers spelled it out loud and clear, in bright, blinking lights. And those numbers? Brutal. Rachel Zegler's self-proclaimed masterpiece cost Disney around $350 million to make, which meant the movie needed to earn over $700 million just to break even. So, what did it pull in on its first weekend? A measly $5 million. Yes, 5. As in single digit. To make the sting even worse, this happened during the same weekend the Minecraft movie premiered. That film, which had no political baggage or controversy attached, raked in $162 million domestically in just 3 days. And globally, it smashed the $300 million mark in a single weekend. The contrast was staggering. While Minecraft quietly dominated the box office with its family-friendly charm, Snow White floundered. And all the self-hype in the world couldn't mask the hard truth. Audiences had voted with their wallets, and they weren't buying what Rachel Zegler was selling. This wasn't just a flop, it was a full-on collapse. And it confirmed what critics and fans had been whispering for months. Something about this project, and maybe its star, just didn't sit right with people. And if Disney was sweating before, they were about to start panicking. Rachel's fall from grace didn't just play out in theaters, it hit the streets of New York City. Shortly after the disastrous box office reports dropped, paparazzi snapped photos of Rachel looking totally unrecognizable. Gone was the red carpet glam. Instead, she was seen wobbling through Manhattan looking tired, disheveled, and, dare we say, totally defeated. The images were harsh, but the headlines were even harsher. Phrases like somber, humiliated, and hungover looking dominated the press. Now, there's nothing wrong with looking rough after a bad week. We've all been there. But when you're the face of a $350 million movie that just face-planted, those candid photos hit different. Suddenly, Rachel was the poster child for a project gone horribly wrong. The internet took the ball and ran with it, calling her Hollywood's biggest cell phone, and joking that she was walking her dog because it was the only thing that would still be seen with her in public. It's harsh. But in the world of celebrity culture, perception is everything. And those viral photos sent a clear message. The fall from Hollywood darling to internet meme was not only fast, it was complete. In a moment that feels almost scripted for satire, the video jokes that Rachel Zegler met her only fan. And honestly, it's not hard to see why the internet ran with this gag. After the theater debacle and public fallout, the enthusiasm around her seemed to vanish. Fans weren't showing up. Online support dried up. And in the clip, when someone finally approaches her, it's not exactly the tearful reunion between a star and an adoring fanbase. Instead, it's one awkward interaction played for laughs. This fan is portrayed as the only person in the country still defending Zegler online, someone who screams, "Leave Rachel alone," with the same chaotic energy of that infamous Britney Spears fan video. It's exaggerated, of course, but the sentiment hits. The joke is that Rachel's public support has dwindled down to a single internet warrior waving a lonely flag. The sad part? It doesn't feel that far off from the truth. For someone who once boasted that people would always line up to see her, the absence of real-world support makes this scene devastatingly ironic. Even casual fans seem to have checked out. Social media timelines that once hyped her up were now full of memes mocking her fall. And this only fan moment crystallized the feeling that Rachel's once glowing image had curdled into something almost pitiful. This wasn't just a PR nightmare, it was a pop culture punchline in real time. And whether Rachel realized it or not, the internet was no longer cheering for her success. They were tuned in to watch the train wreck. If Snow White was the iceberg, then Disney's live-action Tangled remake was the Titanic. And once box office numbers confirmed that Snow White had completely flopped, Disney didn't just get cold feet, they hit the brakes hard. Development for the Tangled live-action film, which was already in pre-production with meetings and casting underway, was suddenly and quietly paused indefinitely. Translation? Cancelled. Buried. Erased. The video presents this as more than just a random business decision. It's framed as fallout from the Rachel Zegler effect. A once golden IP like Tangled, based on the wildly successful 2010 animated film, should have been a no-brainer. But after the Snow White debacle, Disney apparently realized they couldn't afford to gamble again. Not with another princess, not with another reimagined classic, and definitely not with another potentially controversial casting choice. Reports even hinted that the studio had already begun considering diverse reinterpretations of Tangled's characters, prompting fears among fans that yet another beloved tale was about to be radically altered. But instead of pushing forward, Disney pulled the plug. And just like that, another live-action princess bit the dust. The internet saw it as a direct consequence of Snow White's failure, and by extension, Zegler's. This was no small ripple. It was a sign that the entire Disney live-action strategy might be unraveling. And with Rachel at the center of the storm, her name became linked not just to one flop, but to the possible collapse of an entire remake empire. You can't talk about Rachel Zegler's Snow White disaster without addressing the giant elephant in the room, the woke label that haunted the movie from day one. Whether fair or not, Snow White became ground zero for a debate over modern casting, rewriting classic characters, and whether Disney had completely lost touch with its core audience. And at the heart of that controversy, Rachel. Critics argued that casting a Latina actress to play Snow White, a character described in the original tale as having skin as white as snow, was Disney deliberately poking the bear. To fans who grew up with traditional versions of the story, this wasn't inclusive, it was performative. It felt like the studio was swapping out beloved elements, not to tell a better story, but to earn social media brownie points. And Rachel didn't help. Her interviews often came off as dismissive of the original film, calling it outdated and expressing little love for the source material. That rubbed people the wrong way. Fast. Instead of selling the film as a tribute, Rachel framed it as a correction. Instead of celebrating what people loved, she criticized it, all while positioning herself as the enlightened voice of a new generation. The backlash was swift and relentless. Memes, boycotts, and takedown videos flooded the internet. People weren't just mad at the studio, they were mad at her. It became personal. This wasn't just a PR hiccup. It was a full-blown cultural battle. And Rachel Zegler, intentionally or not, had become the face of it. At this point, the term Rachel Zegler curse has taken on a life of its own. Her name has become synonymous with failed reboots, awkward interviews, and theatrical disasters. But maybe the most fascinating part of this entire saga is how it became bigger than her. She started as a rising star, a breakout performer with a promising future. But somewhere along the way, she morphed into a symbol of everything people think is going wrong with Hollywood. The final segment of the video hammers this home. The narrator sarcastically imagines future castings like Jada Pinkett Smith as Rapunzel and pokes fun at how absurd some of these reboots have become. But underneath the jokes is a sobering truth. Disney once had an infinite money glitch, and instead of using it wisely, they tried to reprogram it and broke it. By chasing clout, rewriting icons, and ignoring fan expectations, they tanked their own legacy. Rachel Zegler didn't do this alone, of course. But in the eyes of the internet, she became the face of the failure. Not just of one movie, but of a studio that forgot how to listen. And as the video closes with laughter, you realize this isn't just about a bad movie. It's about a shift in Hollywood, a miscalculation in marketing, and a star who flew too close to the sun with a camera rolling the whole way down.